Well, there is a new honor roll at the New York Times tonight with 4 names on it. And those 4 names appear in the defendant block of this crazy lawsuit filed by Donald Trump today, which takes its place now as the single most ridiculous lawsuit ever filed by the most ridiculous litigant in American political history, Donald Trump. No American politician has filed more frivolous lawsuits than Donald Trump. The Republican Party itself used to always have an item in the Republican Party platforms about frivolous lawsuits, lawsuits like this stack of nonsense. The Republican Party wanted to pass legislation for decades to limit frivolous lawsuits filed by plaintiffs seeking what Republicans considered ridiculous amounts of money from corporations, and no frivolous lawsuit has ever asked for more money than Donald Trump's lawsuit against the New York Times and 4 of its reporters today. Donald Trump decided that today was the day to file a lawsuit suing the New York Times for, this is one of the things that this lawsuit is about, endorsing Kamala Harris in the presidential campaign last year. Donald Trump thinks you can sue for that. The 3 articles in this lawsuit that Donald Trump is suing about were all published last year before the election, and it took Donald Trump a year to decide to file this lawsuit today. Or did it? How many of these things, these stacks of paper, does the Trump lawsuit factory have ready to go on a day when Donald Trump thinks he really needs one of these? Today was one of those days. Donald Trump knew that the most incompetent FBI director in history, who is also incompetent at actually tying a necktie, would be testifying in the Senate Judiciary Committee and would be asked questions about Donald Trump's old friend, Jeffrey Epstein. So Donald Trump knew he would want something to distract from that today. And Donald Trump knew that the New York Times yesterday delivered another massive investigative report of Donald Trump's finances, which Donald Trump desperately wants to distract from with the most ridiculous lawsuit he has ever filed. And so our first guest tonight will be the next New York Times reporter who Donald Trump will want to sue, whose reporting shows the president of the United States was taking part in a deal taking $2 billion in personal money for him and his partners in the form of an investment from the United Arab Emirates this year while Donald Trump's president. Now, that would be an impeachable offense for any other president in history. Donald Trump this year, as president of the United States, took part in a $2 billion private transaction that will benefit him financially, personally. Money from the United Arab Emirates, from the government there. Just imagine what Republicans would be saying tonight if Joe Biden did that. Just imagine what Republicans would be saying tonight if any Democrat ever did anything like that. Donald Trump is trying to stoke fake Republican outrage right now over a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors allegedly falsifying information on a mortgage application for a second home. And Republicans went along with Donald Trump's demand for their outrage over the possibility that someone in government service claimed that a second home would be her primary residence on a mortgage application. And it turns out that that accusation by Donald Trump is false. As we reported on this program last night, the best state of the evidence at this point is that Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook plainly indicated that she was seeking a mortgage for a second home. And Lisa Cook managed to get an interest rate on her mortgage that was above the prevailing rate at the time in that community that anyone could have gotten. And so there is zero evidence that Lisa Cook falsified any information, and there is zero evidence that she got any kind of a break on her mortgage rate. In fact, she paid a higher rate. Donald Trump has been able to summon Republican outrage and widespread right-wing media attacks against a black woman who serves on the Federal Reserve Board by Donald Trump lying about a mortgage that she got for a second home. And Donald Trump's telling this lie about her while Donald Trump was taking $2 billion personally as president of the United States from a foreign government. He just took it. A cash investment in one of Donald Trump's new businesses created while he was president. And the New York Times reporting on this is even worse because the United Arab Emirates got something from Donald Trump at the same time. Something they couldn't get from President Joe Biden, something they badly wanted. And so if this were any other president, including any previous Republican president, there would be an impeachment investigation in the House of Representatives right now on the $2 billion Donald Trump got for himself and his family and his business partners this year while president from the United Arab Emirates. And whether that is a reason that Donald Trump allowed the United Arab Emirates to obtain the world's most advanced and scarce computer chips from the United States. But there is no impeachment investigation of those transactions tonight because Republicans control the House of Representatives and Donald Trump controls Republicans. Donald Trump knows what he has done as president of the United States in this first year of his presidency. And Donald Trump is so desperate to make sure Republicans still control the House of Representatives next year and the year after that he wants to redistrict every Republican state he can to retain more and gain more Republican seats in the House of Representatives so that in the next Congress, there won't be a Democratic chair of the House Judiciary Committee conducting an impeachment investigation of Donald Trump for possibly, among other things, the $2 billion that the New York Times is now reporting on. The Senate Judiciary Committee hearing today was chaired by Senator Chuck Grassley, who will turn 92 years old tomorrow. Senator Grassley has spent more than half of his life in the United States Congress, 50 years, the last 44 of those years in the United States Senate. He went from being a hardworking member of Congress to being a hardworking, very conservative member of the United States Senate, deeply attentive to Iowa's interests in the Senate, to an embarrassment on his good days now and an utter Trumpian disgrace the rest of the time. Today's hearing began, as all Senate hearings do, with the chair asking the first questions.
Director Patel, was Jeffrey Epstein an intelligence asset for the United States government or the foreign government? And if so, which agencies or governments?
Mr. Chairman, I can only speak to the FBI as the director of the FBI, and Mr. Epstein was not a source for the FBI.
Okay. Would you commit to providing my office with all classified, non-classified records relating to the Epstein matter?
I will commit to providing all records I'm legally permitted to do so under the court orders.
It seems to me that I accept your answer to my question, but the broader intelligence community ought to answer these questions as well. Victims deserve an answer.
In reality, Chuck Grassley now accepts every answer that Donald Trump's witnesses give him on anything, something he would never have done for President Reagan's administration or either of the President Bush administrations, Republican administrations. In his opening statement, Kashyap Patel announced who is to blame, in his view, for Jeffrey Epstein getting away with sex trafficking and raping children for so many years, even after his first arrest, which ended in a plea bargain.
Now, I know that there's a lot of talk about Epstein, and I'm here to testify that the original sin in the Epstein case was the way it was initially brought by Mr. Acosta back in 2006. The original case involved a very limited search warrant or set of search warrants and didn't take as much investigatory material it should have seized.
So there's Donald Trump's current FBI director blaming Donald Trump's labor secretary from Donald Trump's first term for letting Jeffrey Epstein completely off the hook. Alex Acosta was the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of Florida in 2006 who made that notorious plea deal with Jeffrey Epstein. And that was well known about Alex Acosta at the time that Donald Trump rewarded Alex Acosta with a cabinet position during the first Trump term. Alex Acosta is scheduled to be questioned about all of this in a closed session of the House Oversight Committee on Friday. The New York Times is, of course, going to fight Donald Trump's frivolous lawsuit filed today. The Times issued a statement saying this lawsuit has no merit, it lacks any legitimate legal claims, and instead is an attempt to stifle and discourage independent reporting. The New York Times will not be deterred by intimidation tactics. We will continue to pursue the facts without fear or favor and stand up for journalists' First Amendment right to ask questions on behalf of the American people. A team of New York Times reporters have been asking questions on behalf of the American people about how Donald Trump got much, much richer this year as president, thanks to the United Arab Emirates. In a massive investigative piece by Eric Lipton, David Yaffe-Bellany, Bradley Hope, Trip Mickle, and Paul Moser, reporting from Washington, New York, London, Dubai, San Francisco, and Taiwan, as only the New York Times can do, a dark story of personal enrichment is told. The subheadline of the piece says, a lucrative transaction involving the Trump family's cryptocurrency firm and an agreement giving the Emiratis access to AI chips were connected in ways that have not been previously reported. The Times describes the sequence this way. In May of this year, one of the United Arab Emirates investment firms would deposit $2 billion into World Liberty Financial, a cryptocurrency startup founded by the Witkoffs and Trumps. 2 weeks later, the White House agreed to allow the UAE access to hundreds of thousands of the world's most advanced and scarce computer chips, a crucial tool in the high-stakes race to dominate artificial intelligence. Many of the chips would go to G42, a sprawling technology firm controlled by Sheikh Tahnoon, despite national security concerns that the chips could be shared with China. The Times reports that Donald Trump's so-called Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, advocated to give the Emirates access to the chips at the same time that his and Mr. Trump's family business was landing the crypto investment, despite an ethics rule intended to prohibit officials from participating in matters that could benefit themselves or their relatives. Some Trump administration officials tried to limit the chips deal, but an unexpected intervention by the conservative agitator, Laura Loomer, changed the power dynamic within the White House in the UAE's favor. Today, as Donald Trump was leaving the White House, Australian reporter John Lyons asked Donald Trump about his business activity.
That it is appropriate, President Trump, that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity.
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Four Corners program.
About the Australians, you're hurting Australia right. In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. And they want to get along with me. You know, your leader is coming over to see me very soon. I'm going to tell him about you. You set a very bad tone.